What's up, Dolphins fans? I'm Nic Rohloff from Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about some quarterback draft targets for the Miami Dolphins. We know that Miami is going to consider taking one, and I'm going to break down 10 prospects that Miami could target in the 2025 NFL Draft. And we have talked a lot about this early in the offseason here, but Miami desperately needs to take a quarterback. Right now, Tua Tagovailoa is the only quarterback on this roster. And I'd expect them to sign a veteran in free agency, but also take one in the draft as a developmental guy. The Skylar Thompson saga in Miami is over, so it looks like they will finally move on and find a new developmental guy and sign someone in free agency as a veteran, which makes total sense to me. So we're going to talk about some of the top guys available. But before we get into that, let me know if you're with me. Should the Dolphins draft a quarterback? I believe they absolutely should. Probably not in the first two rounds, which we'll talk about, but I do think one's necessary. Let me know your thoughts down below. Type Y for yes or type N for no. I do think it's important before we get to the backup quarterback discussion and draft kind of targets. The biggest needs, in my opinion, for the Miami Dolphins, and I have them ranked. I think the interior offensive line is the number one priority for Miami in the offseason. The offensive line was a disaster this past season. Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones are both free agents. You have left tackle, center, and right tackle figured out. Aaron Brewer, Austin Jackson, and then one of Armstead/Patrick Paul. But you need to figure out left guard, right guard. You also need to get safety, interior defensive line alongside Zach Sealer. And then backup quarterback comes in as my number 4 priority for the Miami Dolphins, just ahead of off-ball linebacker 2 to help out Jordan Brooks, who was tremendous in his first season as a Miami Dolphin. And that's kind of why I think it's important for the Dolphins to take a quarterback in the draft, but it is still number 4 on my need list. And if they do not get all filled, 1, 2, and 3, in free agency, I probably am not spending a top 50 pick on a developmental quarterback, especially since I think this quarterback class is relatively weak. I think you could find some good talent here for the future, but I don't think it's anything special to where I'm hammering home for quarterback prospects inside the top 50, where Miami has 2 picks at 13 and 48. But without further ado, my number 1 quarterback draft target for the Miami Dolphins is Jaxson Dart, the Ole Miss QB. I do not have Shedeuer Sanders or Cam Ward on this list because I do forecast them both being first-round picks, and Miami is not going to use a first-round pick on a quarterback. They just simply are not. And when you talk Jaxson Dart, right now, a lot of people are split on Dart. It seems like his name is rising the most right now in draft circles. He is my QB3. I've been a fan of Dart for the past couple of seasons at Ole Miss. I think he runs a pretty solid offense. He put up big-time numbers for Lane Kiffin this past season. There are some head-scratching decisions he does make. There's no sugarcoating that. But when you really dive into Jaxson Dart as a prospect, you can really fall in love with his size, his arm strength, his touch on deep balls. He might be the most accurate deep ball thrower in this draft class. And as we continue to get more film on him, see him participate in the Senior Bowls, in the Combine, and get news out of his interviews, I'll be intrigued to see how he interviews. But someone who is really good at getting to his back foot, making a first read, and then driving the football to that. I think when he has to progress and move through his entire progressions in a play, that's where things start to get dicey, maybe panics a little bit and makes turnover-worthy decisions, but that can be coached. That can become cool and collected with positive coaching, but the tools and the deep ball accuracy that he possesses makes him an intriguing option for me in the 3rd round potentially of the NFL draft. Number 2 on my list is Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama, and boy, oh boy, would this be fun. Milroe, the most athletic quarterback in this draft without a question, dual threat to a T, really disappointed me this season. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not. I was a big Milroe guy. I thought he was going to cement himself as a top 2 quarterback in this draft and potentially be a top 15 pick. Coming off of a season last season where he really improved under Nick Saban, I expected under Caleb DeBoer, who transcended Michael Penix at Washington, to step in at Alabama and get the best out of Jalen Milroe, making him a Heisman contender as well as a top 10 pick potentially. Well, he regressed as a passer. His passing numbers and even just the film and eye test, he did not look as good as a passer. But the dynamic of him on the ground automatically makes him an intriguing prospect if you're asking me. You saw the numbers. 20 rushing touchdowns, over 700 rushing yards. He would be a fun one. You'd be able to use him day one. Even if he was your third string quarterback, if he was active every Sunday, you can create packages for him. If you go back to Lamar Jackson's rookie year, he did not start right away for the Ravens. He started at the end of the year, but in the beginning of the season, they created packages for him to come in and use his legs to make plays. Am I comparing him to Lamar Jackson? Absolutely not. Lamar was a way better thrower of the football, but it's just the type of assets and versatility Milroe would bring as a backup that make him a lot of a fun and intriguing choice for the Dolphins. I'm curious to see where he ultimately goes in the draft, but if he's sitting there at the end of the third round when Miami potentially has 2 comp picks, I would seriously consider taking the quarterback from Alabama. We have a lot more to talk about, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the #1 ticketing app out there. And if you want to go see a live event, whether it's a comedy show, sporting event, concert, Game Time is the best way to get your tickets. Lowest price guaranteed, and they specialize in last-minute tickets. Make sure you use a feature called Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have all-in pricing. Toggling that feature shows you the total price of your ticket up front, so you don't get blindsided by fees at checkout. Also get a full panoramic view in the app of your seat before you buy. Game Time makes purchasing your tickets as easy as possible. So get started today. Download Game Time and use code CHATSPORTS when creating an account to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It is game time. All right, number 3 on my list here is Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, the former Ohio State quarterback, the former 5-star high school product. He was the replacement for C.J. Stroud, struggled in 2023 under Ryan Day with all of those weapons like Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr., but absolutely flourished in his lone season in Western New York as a member of the Syracuse Orangemen. He led the nation in passing yards. He threw 34 touchdowns, and he, to me, is a very intriguing guy. Is he the most mobile and athletic? No, he is not. But he can sit in the pocket and absolutely dial up some accurate balls in the intermediate range as well as deep down the field. And I was doing some research, doing some reading up on McCord, some film watching. There were some outlets, Bleacher Report specifically, that compared him to a Kirk Cousins type, which, if you remember, Cousins coming out of Michigan State as a prospect was drafted in the middle rounds, same draft as the RG3 2012, and we know the career Cousins has had. Now, I'm not saying McCord has that possibility, but in the 4th, 5th round potentially, McCord is a very solid option to be a developmental third-string quarterback. He has the tools. He was a highly touted prospect, didn't live up to the hype at Ohio State, but flourished in the ACC as a member of the Syracuse Orangemen. All right, 4th on my list is someone that we actually talked about a couple days ago on our mock draft, Curtis Rourke, the quarterback from Indiana. And he is an intriguing guy that has kind of continued to grow on me in this early pre-draft process. And he is someone who has excellent size. He's 6'5". I like a quarterback that's tall, to be honest. I do. That's just my personal belief. I feel like, I'm spacing on the GM from Denver that was obsessed with tall quarterbacks, and he took like Paxton Lynch. I'm spacing. I'm driving me nuts. Oh, it's John Elway. I'm a dummy. All right, either way, get back to it. I do, because when you are tall like that, you doesn't get your balls batted down as much at the line of scrimmage. You could see over the defense, and Rourke has a very talented arm. He's not mobile. He's had injury concerns on his lower body, and that's going to limit him when he gets to the league. But if he's in the pocket protected, he can really dial up an accurate ball. He excelled at Indiana at throwing the back shoulder fade and up the sideline. That's something they did quite a bit at Indiana this past year. And I think Rourke in a Dolphins system with Mike McDaniel, where he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, getting set, thrown over the middle of the field, can really be someone that is good as a Dolphins backup. Remember, these quarterbacks are not drafted to be the QB1 of the future. That at this point is still Tua. But we're drafting a quarterback that can maybe develop into a solid backup, develop into a bridge starter if you want to move on from Tua in a year or two. And I think Rourke is someone that in the system for a couple of years could be a good option. I would keep my eye out on the Indiana Hoosier as a potential draft pick for the Miami Dolphins in the 4th or 5th round. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to be breaking down trades, NFL draft stuff, NFL free agency, and more surrounding the Miami Dolphins. So make sure you are subscribed. We're on the road to 68K. Would appreciate everyone who joins the channel. All right, the 5th quarterback that we're going to highlight on this episode is Quinn Ewers, the Texas QB, and we actually did a full deep dive on Quinn Ewers just a couple days ago, which is another reason why you should be subscribed. This was the thumbnail. We did a full video because after he declared for the draft, a couple of professional analysts linked him to Miami as a mid-round target, and I wanted to talk about him potentially being a Miami Dolphin in this draft. But I got to be honest, I don't really like Quinn Ewers, man. And if you watch that video, you would know I'm not the biggest fan. Another 5-star recruit, went to Ohio State, transferred out of Ohio State, went to Texas, 2.5 years as a starter, has injury history, he's inaccurate, sloppy footwork. Yeah, his arm talent is out of this world, and he can drop it down in any arm slot to throw the football and excels in an RPO scheme, but he gets a lot of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. Ewers is erratic. He needs basically a full mechanic overhaul, if you're asking me, which is why I'm nervous about taking him. But once again, we're all talking about developmental guys, so maybe Mike McDaniel sees him as a project that he can stash on the practice squad after signing a legit backup in free agency and try to develop him there, get him some action in the preseason. I think the Dolphins will certainly show interest in Ewers throughout the draft process, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But that's why I put him number 5 on my list, but I personally am not a fan of him as a prospect. But out of the first 5 names that we talked about as mid-round NFL quarterback draft targets, let me know which one is your favorite. I'm going to give you a final list of 5 of some other guys to keep your eyes out here for, but let me know who your favorite of the first 5 are. Final 5 I did want to bring up here, and this probably rounds out the top 10 quarterbacks for the Dolphins outside of Cam Ward and Shedeuer Sanders, who I do not expect Miami to have any idea of taking because it would require a top 5, top 10 pick, and I don't see Miami trading up for that. But Will Howard from Ohio State, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, Max Brosmer from Minnesota, and then Brady Cook from Missouri. The one here I would like to highlight the most probably is Dylan Gabriel, longtime starter. He's been in college for a very long time, bounced around from Oklahoma to Central Florida, now finished his career in Oregon. Left-handed QB, so he's someone that can mimic the style of Tua, accurate, not very mobile, stick in the pocket, experienced. So it would make sense from my perspective to have him as a second-string, third-string quarterback because you can run the same type of scheme, run the same system, run the same practice. Like, it makes sense to me for Dylan Gabriel to be an option for the Miami Dolphins in round 5, 6, or 7. But these 5 guys I would not take until round 6, round 7, late day 3. The other names that I talked about are guys maybe I'd consider rounds 3, 4, 5. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. We're still bringing you content on a daily basis here at the channel, so make sure you subscribe. Everything NFL draft, free agency, and more. Join the channel here because we do a lot of good work surrounding the Miami Dolphins.